Hello and welcome back to my modded F125 series for part 15 here at Brazil, going into obviously the penultimate round of the season in our first modded career mode for season 1. It's obviously a lot's happened. You haven't seen the previous round at Austin. I highly recommend you go check it out. And that was a sprint weekend. We actually got another sprint weekend here for Brazil, so we've got back-to-back sprint weekends, but obviously it's match point for Max Verstappen going into this weekend ahead of Charles Leclerc by 41 points as he's got the lead over him over the Ferrari driver, so he could potentially win and take this title from him this weekend. You see also me and Sainz are fighting for P6 in the championship, only 2 points, so we have to try and fight against another Ferrari driver ahead of us. But coming into qualifying, in the sprint qualifying, you see actually there was a bit of rain coming in about 10 or so minutes, so the track temperature is going to get, drop a bit and the tire's going to get a lot cooler. So I go straight onto the softs and go for my qualifying lap almost straight away, because I know the track's going to get degraded in heat and become not as grippy later on as the weather kind of comes in, starts rain, etc. Starts to cool down and the soft tires don't work as much. We see we're lashing the back of Charles Leclerc, obviously fighting for that championship, try and use the help of that Ferrari engine to kind of pull us along on the main straight, trying to help us with that DRS, and was the ERS trying to pull us along, get a few more attempts, come into the first turn, actually get a bit of a lock, get a little wipe, actually isn't anything too major. We're trying to stay in the back of Charles Leclerc as he gets beautiful drive coming out through the center S's. We see coming through actually through sector 2, there's Isaac Hadjar sets the fastest lap so far, then Gabriel Bortoleto setting the fastest lap. So at the moment, anything to play for the top spot, because at the moment, 2 rookies taking the fastest lap. We see now 3 rookies as Franco Colapinto goes quickest. This is literally on pure pace. Other cars are set fastest lap, so this is actually on pure pace. Then Alpine, Sauber, and other cars fighting for pole position. We come across the line. The Charles Leclerc set the fastest lap, but we cross the line in P3, ahead of Bortoleto, ahead of Hadjar, which is really good. We see now coming into the pace, we're still P5. I see that rain is starting to come in just in a few laps time. So these are the final laps that we have to count on everyone on the grid, because I don't think there's going to be any more laps going to the end of the session because it's going to be raining. We see that Charles Leclerc is ahead of Max Verstappen, his title rival, which is very massive for him. But you see now coming a little further, just a few minutes ahead of the session, it is now pouring with rain. So now there is going to be no more, additional laps because no one's going to improve. So it's pretty pointless. But you see Max Verstappen trailing from Charles Leclerc, his title rival, by just less than a tenth, which is massive. But you see Carlos Sainz, who will actually find a P6 in the championship, is in P3. But you have Franco Colapinto in the Alpine doing mega stint and job in qualifying in P4. We see both of the McLaren struggling just outside the top 10, which is really massive for them. But then all the way down here, you see that Mercedes have an absolute blunder of Kimi Antonelli in P15 and George Russell in P18. I don't know what's gone on there, but they've had absolute blunder in qualifying. Maybe got caught up by the rain, didn't just prepare, which is very, unlike Mercedes. But coming into the race, this is definitely a bit of a mixed grid. This is definitely something going to be really good, because I think this is going to be proved to be a great sprint. But see, we have a choice here to go on the soft or the mediums. I could go on the mediums because, the soft tires been like this season, been really inconsistent and, horrible. But I actually choose and opt to go on the soft. I think everyone around is going to be going on soft because it's a sprint. It's, it's not as long as the main race. And I think they might hold out as we hope. We see everyone around us, Carlos Sainz, Colapinto, Behrman and Hulkenberg are all on soft. So actually, I think I'm going the right move to stay on that tire. But now coming, obviously, back to the grid, just set the car perfectly parked, and I'm going to line up ready for this race at the sprint. As we are raring to go for this Brazilian sprint, as we come into 5 red lights for this Brazil sprint for the penultimate round, obviously for this championship between Leclerc and Verstappen. We go obviously again for a poor start getaway. This got tires get absolutely no grip on us. See Hulkenberg, we're under 5 from Hulkenberg, trying all the way around inside of us, which he tries an attempt to do. We try and hold it down the inside of him off the side. We try and give him the tire line, go all the way around the outside, try and give any room at all. And we try and, I'm not sure what that start was about. I absolutely barely had any grip off the start, so that's going to really hamper us obviously for our grip position and our start. We see now Carlos Sainz and Colapinto go side by side. The Argentinian driver going down the inside of the Spanish Ferrari driver. He goes down the inside. He's fine for a pure podium position right now, which is absolutely massive for the Alpine drivers. Now we actually get a great driver. Colapinto stays ahead of Sainz. Now we try and get past Carlos Sainz, which we do, trying all the way around the side, which we do, trying to fend off and try to get past him, which we do very nicely. Thank you to Franco for actually helping us out. But obviously now we've got an Alpine and a Williams fine for a podium in the sprint right now. We try and gain the slipstream, try and get the end of the straight, come into the center S's, which we don't quite do. Get a little bit of an oversteer, trying too much curb obviously. But if a little further back, we see that Behrman is actually under pressure from both of the McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. You see that Lando Norris goes all the way down inside of his fellow countryman of Behrman, try to make that McLaren work. Obviously more than that, obviously they're struggling a lot more this weekend than anyone would think, because obviously right now there's a little bit more poor performance than we see. We go right near the back of Colapinto's gearbox, obviously getting a little too close for comfort right now. We see right come onto the main straight, come onto lap 3, actually get Charles Leclerc sets fastest. Like we try and get all down the inside, and we try and get in the slipstream. We should do pulls the inside. We're going to move. What you do, we see that on the little screen to our left. You see that the 2 title contenders are fighting, and you see the side by side now coming to the main screen. There's still side by side coming down after the center S's onto the main straight. You see that Max Verstappen, that Ford engine, trying to outperform that Ferrari engine, which he does nicely. He sends it down the inside, which he does, and keeps the position. So it's definitely the title fight is definitely heating up right now. Is a little further back. See Hadjar and Russell fighting for P17 right now. Obviously, the Mercedes should not be that far down. We see the Leclerc on lap 4 Comes to lap 4, sets the fastest lap, and see it goes strolling past Max Verstappen, trying to get any contention, obviously, for that title win, try and keep it alive as much as possible. We see that Collinson goes down inside, a little bit of contact, actually, maybe a little bit aggressive from the young Argentine driver. Obviously, he wants his podium. He's obviously in his rookie season. He wants to give everything that he can, and I don't blame him, because obviously, being the Alpine has been a bit of a struggle with the car this year, but we try and come down with the back straight. Obviously, we've got nothing on him. We can't really get past him or near enough, so we come on to lap 5. We're trying to stay on the back of him, which we do, but unfortunately, me and Sainz, we're finding the P60 championship, and obviously, he's right behind us right now. We're trying to stay in the toe of Collinson, which we do. We go lay on the brakes, which we can go nearly into the back of him, so we have to go force us a little wide, so not getting front wing damage, which we do. Thankfully, don't. I was going to help out Colapinto. Obviously, now Carlos Sainz now right on our gearbox, right near us, close to the left hand side. But obviously, it's going to be a bit of an awkward way past us, because we're going to stay into the inside. That's going to help us very much, massively for us. We see coming to the front again. You see Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are still not got some unresolved title battles. You see that Verstappen can't get past Charles Leclerc, coming to obviously onto this lap. We see that Carlos Sainz coming all the way around the outside of us, which he does very nicely, but we still try and keep it a very hard time. Keep all the way around the outside. You see that Colapinto has actually gone away from us, so any chance of a podium is going to be very hard. We see that Charles Leclerc is trying to keep his title chances alive, which he does, coming onto the main straight, which he wins the Brazil sprint just ahead of Max Verstappen, just barely by attempts. It seems like we come across the line for a good P4 ahead of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, fighting for P6 in the championship. But this is massive as Charles Leclerc wins massively ahead of his title rival Max Verstappen, trying to take any points advantage away from him. So that's going to be one less point. It's going to be a 40-point gap, obviously, between the two pair of them. But see, McLaren's struggling so much in P8 and P9. I'm not sure what's going on. But again, a lot further down, George Russell didn't barely make any progress. Only one position in P17. Kimi Antonelli all the way in P16. So Mercedes had absolute just blunder of a sprint, which I don't understand where their pace has gone, because normally they're at the front, because they've got a pretty decent package under them. So that's definitely something worrying, obviously, for the German outfits. Hopefully they can turn things around for them and try, turn into a good qualifying session, which are in right now. So on the back of Lando Norris, maybe a little too close. You see, we've got the DRS open and the ERS trying to also, in fact, now actually we have to try and go past him, because if we're not probably giving ourselves a big enough gap, so we have to go down the inside, which is going to compromise both of us. We go all the way around the outside, which again is going to compromise him, but obviously me, again, I'm trying to be a little bit aggressive, trying to stay ahead of him, but that's going to both cost us, a few cents just in that. So now we're trying to push on the lap as much as we can. I'm trying to just gain as much time as we can and try and help out each other as we help out Lando Norris again across the line as he actually gets past us. So we cross the line, we're going to be P4, which is pretty decent. As we come back into the garage, Fernando Alonso is in pole position just ahead of Max Verstappen, and George Russell just turned it around massively for this qualifying session, and Charles Leclerc in P4. But the top four, less than a tenth, is really close. I don't think I've seen a qualifying session this close. But you see that Carlos Sainz all the way in P17. Again, I'm not sure what's going on. His pace is gone, but Oscar Piastri in P20, the former title leader early in the season, is dropped all the way into last place. I don't know what's gone on there, but you see on a replay of him, you see coming back on board with him, he actually sets the fastest lap. So again, no cars on track, free traffic. Obviously, the sunshine is definitely helping to his advantage, and he sets the fastest lap of the session. Will he be out later on? I'm not sure. We'll go out for our final qualifying lap, saving those soft tyres for the race potentially. But we see behind obviously Behrman, which is just like in Austin, we try and follow a car, try and give us a bit of a gap. It's actually later on the out lap. We see we're behind Max Verstappen. We see we've got Kimi Antonelli right behind us. Obviously, he's probably a little too close to what we was to Norris on our first qualifying lap. So obviously, we're trying to stay behind Verstappen, try and give us a big enough gap, try and help us tow us along. We want to not give any dirty air that was going to affect us during the corners. But you see Kimi Antonelli is still right behind us, so we're going to try and get off, keep him away, because we don't want him down or inside. That's going to cost us our lap, and that'll be the end of our qualifying lap done. So obviously, we're trying to stay ahead of Max Verstappen, trying to gain a few more times, we're just barely on the line of just trying to improve our lap. We're going to need just a 10. We see coming through the right hander, it's very close. We see now coming into the late braking, so try to be late on the brakes as we can. We've gained about 2 tenths, about maybe a tenth or so. But now coming to the last part of the qualifying lap in the slipstream of Max Verstappen, we see that Charles Leclerc set the fastest lap. Is Max Verstappen going to set the fastest lap across the line? He doesn't. So when we come across the line, where's that going to put us? It's going to put us P12. So a little disappointing, since his sprint quality was a lot further up. But you see that Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap yet again ahead of his title rival Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, who maybe try and help him obviously in the main race. But George Russell turning around massively from in the Mercedes camp, and Fernando Alonso in P5 in the Aston Martin Honda. Lando Norris in P6. Obviously he's done an improvement, but Carlos Sainz all the way down in P18, and Oscar Piastri, despite going out earlier, didn't obviously go for a second lap after then, is in P14. But Max Verstappen can win the title ahead of Charles Leclerc, but Charles Leclerc needs to obviously have Verstappen to struggle a lot during this race. Probably, basically he needs to win this race, and Verstappen to struggle, I think, P7 or below to have any triumphants going into the finale. Obviously, we don't want to forget there is still a constructors' title fight between McLaren, Red Bull, and Ferrari, which we don't want to forget. But right now, this is the main stage right now, obviously, because the drivers' title and title fight is going to be really intense. Obviously, after that sprint is really entertaining. But coming on to the strategy, I'm going to go for a different take on it, because obviously the sprint, the tyres were a bit I don't know, just not as grippy as I thought. But then I actually opt to go on to the medium to hard strategy. So I'm going to go a full 1A and go different on the strategy compared to what my team maybe would have recommended. But obviously I think I'll try and use the mediums, because the medium has been one of my comfort tyres this season. Been really, really good. But you see, a little further up, we see the Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen both on the soft tyre. And obviously I think everyone around them are on the soft tyre as well. But you see, Charles Leclerc needs to do everything in this can. There's any advantage coming into the finale in Abu Dhabi, into the final race. Obviously he's going to try and pull out a great start coming into this race. Obviously we're coming to form at the end of this grid, and you're trying to have a better race than we did in the sprint. Obviously the last one was a poor getaway. We're now coming to 5 red lights for the Brazilian Grand Prix, for the penultimate round of this championship for the season 1 unmodded career. Obviously we're coming to 5 red lights. It's been a very long time as we finally get going. Obviously you get a decent start against Paul Aaron. Obviously he's on the soft tyre. We know he's no slouch at all. He's been this season a rookie, but we see actually been held up by our teammate, bogging him down. But we try and go down the tyre of our teammate Hulkenberg and Colapinto. But obviously we go back up again. There's a little too tight. I think would have been contact, but we try and get through cleanly, get past the team, which we do, and try and get on the back of Colapinto, who was fine for that podium in that sprint earlier, but now we're actually fine for just, barely on the points of P9, P10s. How risk can change. Now we're trying to make a really timing between Hulkenberg and Colapinto, which we make just barely no contact. I don't know how, it wasn't impossible. We got past Colapinto and now Hulkenberg just barely. So that was a very, very fine line of, just borderline of danger, but we've made it very cleanly. I'm not sure how, but now we're trying to see the back of Lando Norris has been held up by massively. You see that Charles Leclerc actually all the way down in P3, if you see, just barely up the road, so he's been past both of the Rebels. So he's had a poor getaway, obviously getting passed by his Taro and his teammate. It's not good for him at the start. So now we try to sit down inside of Lando Norris, which we do very cleanly, very nicely, trying to get in much positions, obviously with the help. Just like Leclerc has been struggling a little bit on this opening lap. He's been actually helping us out, trying to hold everyone else up. So you see, coming onto the penultimate corner, see the gas has a bit of a slide, obviously on the exit, trying to get a good run as much as we can, possibly trying to use the excess of the ARS we have on our deployment on this lap, trying much as we can. We see actually confirmation of Max Verstappen actually sets the fast lap, so he sees the lead in this Grand Prix. We see it back onto the first lap. We see that Charles Leclerc actually gets already passed by Max Verstappen, and so Yuki Tsunoda is going to make a move down the side of him. So the Japanese driver trying to help out his Dutch teammate, fighting for that tile, trying to be a rear gunner to help him out during this race, trying to claim him the tile, trying to help him out. As he seems to actually get past him, so there's already a gap between Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. So Charles Leclerc's got a lot of work to do during this race, try and pull any strings that he can, try and make some things do. As we try and make some things do, make him move down inside of Gasly very cleanly and very nicely. Obviously past the Alpine driver, is with one Alpine in sprint now, the other Alpine in the main race. We now see a little further onto lap 2. Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap, coming to lap 3. See, we're trying to get on to the back of Fernando Alonso. Shows the rest of that ERS, showing send it all the way down. It's like we should do very loud the race, very Daniel Ricciardo style, like we did back in Monza. So trying to give them the tight lines. You see the Fernando keeps it planted, still down into the inside. We're trying to stay all the way around. So we should do very nicely. What we're going to do, trying to stay ahead of him. Obviously that Honda engine is no slow coach at all, but you see, go to the end of that back straight. Actually he's nowhere near us. We're safe right now, so we're going to try and stay ahead of him, which we do. Now coming to lap 4, Yuki Tsunoda's already been passed by George Russell and Charles Leclerc, so he's had a bit of a nightmare moment at the moment. So we thought about going down inside of here, but I thought I'm going to set myself up coming to on the main straight. Obviously the ERS and DRS are going to be so powerful. You see, coming to back on board, coming to lap 5, you see how powerful it is just to get past Yuki Tsunoda with that Ford engine. It's just, I didn't have to really try, so obviously I'm going to save, thinking ahead, and then saving a move like he did obviously with the first 2 opening laps, which it was a bit different. We see that George Russell trying to take a move now on Charles Leclerc onto lap 6, trying to make spoil obviously the Monegasques driver of a title fight at all. As he goes down inside, was he trying to fight for a title, trying to turn around this weekend after a misery in sprint. Now he's ahead of him with the Monegasque driver and the Ferrari driver, so any upset for Leclerc is hampering his title fight. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see now. So we're going to try and catch Charles Leclerc obviously in these medium tyres, because they could perform really, really nicely in this opening stint right now. As you see, he's ahead of us right now, but a little further back you see Yuki Tsunoda is ahead of Fernando Alonso, trying to make any defense move on Fernando Alonso. As he has a massive moment, he spins round, he hits the wall, he's hit, and he's span in the center resters. That's going to cause a massive loss for the Aston Martin Honda, gaining 5 for P7, 5 for P6, in a great position so far. That's going to cost him massively, fighting for that P5 actually, not P6, but that could be massive. His championship fight, in the order. You see that Carlos Sainz all the way a lot further down, still fighting in P17, P18, which is really struggling for in the sprint. He was up there fighting for the podium, but now it's just massive. We see that Max Verstappen is in the pits, also as Charles Leclerc and George Russell in the pits. So obviously everyone's going to try and make a move onto that medium tyre now. See, we're back on board, was actually starting to lead this race. Obviously we got a pit on the end of this lap. We see that Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris go 3 wide, come into the left-hander. It gets really close. You see barely any contact. I don't know how not many contact. See, Pierre Gasly is now the beneficiary obviously of that very, very tight move between all 3 of them together. Now so coming on to the end of lap 9, coming to lap 10. Now it's our moment to actually come to the pits, coming to get off those medium tyres, going on to the hard tires. I maybe thought like going a lap longer, but I thought maybe I'll just, you know, try and benefit as much as I can. Obviously, this was predicted to be the best strategy. We did get a little held out by Nico Hulkenberg, which, you know, is a bit annoying, but, you know, we lose like a second there, so we try and gain as much as we can. But you see, these tires are absolutely cold. So these tires are feeling absolutely horrible right now. I bet you see the lot of understated, but it's not even clicking right now because how cold these tires are. We see behind us, Yuki Tsunoda actually jumps ahead of Pierre Gasly, and see our teammate a little further behind, just behind him in P10 Albon. So actually he's trying to help us out. Obviously we're on this cold tires, but a little further after the pit stop phase, Verstappen's got a bit advantage over the charging George Russell. Now is catching him. So he coming to lap 12. He's now George Russell's now caught on the end of the back of Max Verstappen, trying to make a move, trying to spoil again the Dutch national anthem, obviously for that race win. As he makes him Danny's side and try again. He's trying to fight against obviously Max Verstappen. Don't have to worry as much about title compared to Charles Leclerc. Was obviously he wants that race win, game for his fifth consecutive title. Obviously he now gets the tire line, has to back out of it, and he has to settle behind George Russell right now. But I bet this is not the end of this battle so far. And now you see we're coming back on board with us after a few laps. You see that Gasly actually pulled away from Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon, so he actually got the pace compared to the Red Bull 4. But you see he's 1.4 seconds behind us, so we have to try and keep an eye on that, try and keep the pace and keep the gap between him and me and Gasly in that Alpine. We see that Verstappen's passed Russell yet again for that race lead. Obviously he's not going to give it that easily. We know how ruthless and relentless Max is in that Red Bull. We see that Charles Leclerc is still lingering behind in P3, but obviously he's trying to catch, you know, the battle of them two fighting ahead. You see that actually coming to lap 16, just, you know, a few laps later, you see that Gasly actually caught us really quickly. So this second stint has not been very good on these these hard tires, sorry. But you see actually we're struggling quite a bit compared to, you know, Gasly on the mediums. You know, back on board to the front, obviously comes to the penultimate light. See that Russell's trying to make a move back on Max Verstappen. These two have history in real life and trying to get very, very close of the in-game as well. So try to spark any more controversy between these two. We try and see that George will get deja vu again, give Max the title line. He has to back out of it once more yet again. And I'm showing, you know, coming to the final lap, going back on board with us onto that penultimate lap, you know, a little further back on our lap. We see that Gasly streams passes off the help with that DRS, you know, and the slipstream is very effective, you know, with that, you know, on that main straight. Now comes to the back straight, we can try and use that the same tactic again. Obviously we have the DRS to help us as much on this back straight. Try and make him go tire, try and swing to, you know, to the round side, all the way around the outside, which you do. But you see that Gasly just edges out of it. He try and close the door on us. So that's his fair play to Gasly. We now try and, you know, give him the tire line yet again, try and make him defend in this tire line what Verstappen and Russell did in their battle ahead of us. Try and give him all the way around the outside, which we do very nicely, and we get the, you know, to keep that position ahead of Gasly. So again, I don't think that's me and Gasly over for that battle and that position just yet. But again, coming to the final lap now, onto the final lap, you see that Verstappen trying to get past George Russell as he has a massive lockup into turn 1. That's going to make him, you know, wear our tires a little bit longer, so potentially don't cause any, you know, any punctures. We see a lot further back. You see this Carlos Sainz is still all the way in P16, but you know, coming onto the final lap, you see that Verstappen's pulled away from Russell, and now he's going to claim his 5th consecutive world championship as he comes across the line to win the world championship and claim over Charles Leclerc to finish and close the driver's title as he wins the race and the driver's championship. We come across the line, you see the head of Gasly, you see he comes across the line, the Gasly gets the help of DRS and slipstream, he's ahead of us and he steals P4. It's ahead of us, so that's only just ahead of us on the line, so he just nips that position ahead of us. But you see that Max Verstappen wins the race, but also that means he closes and finishes by winning on top of the driver's championship ahead of Charles Leclerc. It was very close in the sprint, but obviously Charles Leclerc dropping that back in the race cost him, and you know, that race start cost him mainly obviously the Red Bull duo working together. But confirmation, Max Verstappen just beating George Russell. It was a close battle between them two. Obviously in real life it's a lot of controversy, but you see that Charles Leclerc finishing P3, very disappointing despite being in pole position. But Pierre Gasly claiming a very, very well deserved P4 in that Alpine. Has been very, very fast in that Alpine compared to the McLaren's Mercedes. Been very, very quick in a very underperforming car. So, you know, keep an eye on him for any, you know, driver changes next season. You definitely want to consider. But, you know, for the constructors, we have to keep an eye on now that Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren go into the finale fine. All 3 teams fine for that constructors championship. So not all titles are over, as the drivers have maybe been closed today. In the finale, we still got a 3 massive title fight between 3 massive big heads of the sport. So this could be really interesting. You see finale, who's going to claim that, because, you know, none of them are slouches. Red Bull has, you know, been really strong. McLaren have been strong early in the season, but they have a bit of a slow. But Ferrari, again, inconsistent, but, you know, still very strong. So it could go either way of either of them. But as you see the driver standing, you see that Max, you know, it finishes and finalizes he's the champion of this first season of the F1 25 series. But we're still fine for our P6. Obviously against Sainz, he's had a treacherous, you know, race all the way in P15, 16. I don't know what he's doing. That, guys, has been the penultimate round at Brazil. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I have. It's been a really, you know, fun race at Brazil. I always enjoy Brazil, always really entertaining. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Max Verstappen is the champion, your first champion of this F1 25 modded career mode. We've got the finale soon, which is going to be coming soon, and I hope you guys can't wait for that. But I hope you guys see in the next one. Peace.